The Castles Beneath the Ocean, a journey into the unknown. Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where buried mysteries, unsolved phenomena, and the darkest corners of history slowly unravel through chilling tales and forgotten truths waiting to be uncovered. Deep beneath the ocean's restless waves, where darkness swallows light, ancient secrets lie in wait. Sunken castles, forgotten cities, and cryptic ruins whisper of civilizations lost to time. Are they remnants of mythical lands like Atlantis or natural tricks of the sea? From Japan's mysterious Yonaguni to China's submerged Lion City, these underwater enigmas beckon explorers to unravel their truths. Dive with us into a world of danger, wonder, and hidden histories that defy the past. Yonaguni Monument, the pyramid forgotten by time. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly before the small dive boat, its surface a deceptive mirror of calm. Beneath it, depths uncharted by most held secrets older than memory. Kenta Aratake, a seasoned diver with salt-crusted gear and a restless spirit, adjusted his oxygen tank. It was 1986, off the remote shores of Yonaguni Island, Japan's westernmost frontier. Kenta wasn't chasing coral reefs or schools of fish today. A local fisherman's tale of strange rocks beneath the waves had lured him here, to a place where currents churned with a ferocity that could snap a man's spine. The sea was no friend to the careless, and Kenta knew it. Ready? His dive partner, Hannah, called over the boat's engine hum. Her eyes, sharp behind her mask, betrayed a flicker of unease. She'd heard the rumors, two whispers of a sunken city, a relic of a world long gone. Kenta nodded, his jaw tight. The ocean didn't care for their curiosity, but something down there was calling. They plunged into the blue. The descent was a slow surrender to pressure and cold. Sunlight fractured above, fading into a twilight that clung to the edges of their vision. At 20 meters, the seafloor emerged, a jagged expanse of rock and shadow. Kenta's flashlight swept across the terrain, catching glints of movement fish darting into crevices. Then, something stopped him cold. A wall, not a natural ridge, but a sheer, deliberate face of stone, rising like a monolith from the ocean floor. Its edges were too precise, its angles too sharp. He signaled Hannah, his heart pounding against his ribs. She swam closer, her light joining his. The structure stretched wider than their beams could reach, terraces carved into the stone, steps descending into darkness, and corners so perfect they seemed cut by a giant's blade. Kenta's mind raced. Nature didn't craft like this. Erosion didn't sculpt right angles. This was no random formation. It was architecture. As they explored, the monument revealed more. A broad avenue of flat stone stretched into the gloom, flanked by what looked like pillars. Hannah pointed to a massive block, its surface etched with a shape that chilled Kenta's blood. A face. Not human, not animal, but something otherworldly, its eyes hollow and staring. The current tugged at them, a warning to turn back, but Kenta couldn't tear his gaze away. Who had carved this? When? The weight of the unknown pressed harder than the ocean itself. Back on the boat, dripping and shaken, Kenta and Hannah barely spoke. The fisherman, waiting with a weathered grin, nodded as if he'd known what they'd find. The old ones, he muttered, lighting a cigarette. Kenta wanted to scoff, to cling to logic, but the image of that stone face burned in his mind. He reported the discovery, expecting excitement. Instead, the world met it with skepticism. Scientists descended on Yonaguni in the years that followed, their debates as fierce as the currents guarding the monument. Geologists insisted it was a natural formation, sandstone fractured by tectonic shifts, sculpted by millennia of waves. Archaeologists, wary of rewriting history, dismissed claims of human craftsmanship. Japan's oldest known settlements dated back 5,000 years. A structure like this, if man-made, would be over 10,000 years old, older than Egypt's pyramids, older than Mesopotamia's cities. It would mean a civilization thrived when the world was supposedly populated by scattered hunter-gatherers. The implications were unthinkable. Yet Kenta, who returned to the site obsessively, saw what the academics refused to. The avenue wasn't random. It aligned with precision. The terraces weren't eroded chaos. They descended in measured steps. And that facet symmetry haunted him. He wasn't alone. Divers from across the globe flocked to Yonaguni, drawn by the same questions. Some called it a temple, others a fortress. A few whispered of Atlantis, the mythical island swallowed by the sea. Kenta didn't care for myths, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the monument was watching him, guarding a truth too vast to grasp. One dive, years later, pushed him to the edge. The sea was restless that day, currents swirling like a living thing. Kenta descended alone, his experience outweighing his caution. At 30 meters, he reached a part of the monument he'd never explored, a narrow crevice between two massive stone blocks. His light caught something glinting inside. Against his better judgment, he squeezed through, his tank scraping the rock. The passage opened into a chamber, its walls smooth and unnaturally flat. In the center stood a single stone pillar, etched with symbols he couldn't decipher, spirals, lines, and shapes that seemed to pulse under his beam. The water grew colder, the current stronger. His oxygen gauge beeped a warning. Kenta's instincts screamed to leave, but the symbols held him. They weren't random. They told a story of a people, a cataclysm, a world erased. His light flickered, and for a moment, he swore the pillar moved, its shadow stretching toward him. Panic clawed at his chest. He kicked upward, the crevice seeming tighter than before, as if the monument itself wanted to keep him. He broke the surface, gasping, the boat a distant speck. The sea had nearly claimed him, and he knew it wasn't chance. The monument wasn't just stone. It was alive with secrets, dangerous to those who probed too deep. Kenta never dove there again, but he couldn't escape its pull. He sketched the symbols from memory, showed them to scholars, to linguists. None could read them. Some called him mad. Others quietly began to wonder. The Yonaguni monument remains a battlefield of belief. Marine geologist Masaaki Kimura, one of its fiercest defenders, argues it's a man-made megastructure, built when sea levels were lower during the last ice age. He points to tool marks, drainage channels, and a stadium of tiered stone that no natural process could mimic. Skeptics counter with seismic data, claiming Japan's volatile geology could fracture sandstone into such shapes. The truth lies somewhere in the abyss, obscured by time and tide. Divers still brave the monument's depths, though not all return. The currents are merciless, and the structure's maze-like layout disorients even the experienced. In 1997, a diver vanished, his equipment found tangled in a crevice. Locals whispered of a curse, of spirits guarding the site. Kenta, now gray and weathered, doesn't dismiss them. He's felt the monument's weight, its silent warning to let the past sleep. Yet the questions burn brighter than ever. If Yonaguni is man-made, who were its architects? A civilization advanced enough to carve stone cities 10,000 years ago would shatter history's timeline. Were they seafarers, astronomers, priests of a forgotten god? Did they flee a flood, a quake, or something worse? The monument's age aligns with the end of the Ice Age, when melting glaciers drowned coastal lands. Could it be a relic of a lost world, one Plato's Atlantis dimly echoes? Conspiracy theorists weave wilder tales. Some link Yonaguni to Mu, a mythical Pacific continent. Others claim extraterrestrial hands shaped its stones, pointing to the face-like carving as proof. Kenta scoffs at such ideas, but even he admits the symbols in that chamber felt alien, their meaning just beyond reach. The truth, he suspects, is both simpler and stranger people erased, their story buried under fathoms of water. The monument's allure is its danger. It dares explorers to risk everything for a glimpse of the impossible. Each dive is a gamble, each discovery a step closer to answers or oblivion. The sea doesn't yield its secrets easily, and Yanaguni is its gatekeeper. Its terraces, avenues, and silent face stand as a challenge. Unravel me, if you dare. As science advances, new tools probe the site. Sonar maps reveal structures stretching farther than anyone guessed, hinting at a complex larger than a city. Underwater drones capture images of carvings too precise for chance. Yet the ocean fights back, its currents scouring the stone, its depths hiding what divers can't reach. The monument endures, patient, eternal, as if waiting for the right moment to speak. Kenta, now retired, sits by the Yanaguni shore, staring at the horizon. The fisherman's words echo in his mind. The old ones. He sees their faces in his dreams, not the stone one, but human, fleeting, pleading to be remembered. He wonders how many other Yanagunis lie out there, submerged and silent, their stories drowned. The Pacific is vast, its secrets vaster. The monument is only the beginning. The world may argue, but the stone doesn't lie. It waits, as it has for millennia, for someone braver, foolish enough to unlock its truth. Until then, it remains the pyramid that time forgot, a sentinel of a lost age, whispering one question to all who dare listen. What else lies beneath the waves? Dvarka, the sunken city of a god. The Arabian Sea churned under a sky bruised with storm clouds, its waves clawing at the research vessel Anvesha. Dr. Priya Sharma, a marine archaeologist with a reputation for chasing myths, stood at the bow, her eyes fixed on the horizon off Gujarat, India. It was 2001, and the sea was about to surrender a secret it had guarded for millennia. Priya's team had been scanning the seabed for weeks, their sonar equipment humming through the night. The data was promising, too promising. Beneath the waves, something vast and unnatural lay hidden, defying the limits of history. Got something? Called Vikram, the sonar technician, his voice tight with excitement. Priya rushed to the monitor, her pulse racing. The screen displayed a grid of shapes. Squared foundations, straight lines, and what looked like streets, all submerged under 30 meters of water. It wasn't a shipwreck or a coral reef. It was a city. Priya's breath caught. She'd spent years studying the Mahabharata, the ancient epic that spoke of Dvarka, the golden city of Lord Krishna, built by divine hands and swallowed by the sea. Could this be it? The team prepared for a dive, but the sea was restless. Currents swirled like living things, and the water was murky with silt. Priya checked her gear, ignoring the knot in her stomach. Her colleagues warned her. The site was dangerous, its jagged ruins a trap for the unwary. But Priya wasn't here for caution. She was here for truth. The descent was disorienting, a plunge into a world where light barely reached. At 25 meters, the seafloor emerged, a chaotic sprawl of stone. Priya's flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a wall too straight, too deliberate to be natural. She swam closer, her heart pounding. The stone was weathered but precise, its edges squared like the work of a master mason. The team fanned out, their lights dancing across the ruins. They found more. A grid of what could be streets, paved with flat stones. A platform that might have been a temple's base, and a massive block etched with symbols no one could read. Priya's mind raced. The Mahabharata described Dvarka as a city of gold, its palaces gleaming under the sun. These ruins were humbler, but their layout spoke of planning, of a people who knew how to build. If this was Dvarka, it was older than any city known to history, perhaps 9,000 years old, predating the Stone Age's end. The thought was dizzying. It would mean rewriting everything. Back on the Unvesha, the team was electric with debate. Vikram, ever the skeptic, argued the structures could be natural, shaped by erosion or ancient riverbeds. Rocks can look like walls, he said, tapping the sonar printouts. But Priya shook her head. The precision was uncanny, the symbols too deliberate. She showed the crew a sketch of the carving spirals, lines, and shapes that echoed nothing in India's known history. "This isn't nature," she said. "This is a city." News of the discovery spread, igniting controversy. The Archaeological Survey of India sent experts, but their reports were cautious. Some called the site a geological anomaly, others a later settlement misidentified as Dvarka. Priya bristled at their doubt. The Mahabharata wasn't just a story, it was a map to the past. Krishna's city was said to have sunk after his death, claimed by the sea in a divine act. Science didn't believe in gods, but it couldn't ignore stone. Priya returned to the site, driven by a need she couldn't name. The dives grew riskier, the sea more hostile. One afternoon, a storm loomed, but she insisted on going down. Alone this time, she swam deeper than before, following a narrow channel between two stone walls. The water grew colder, the pressure heavier. Her light caught something, a massive arch, half collapsed, its keystone carved with a figure. It wasn't Krishna, but it felt holy, its eyes staring through the ages. Priya froze, her oxygen gauge beeping. The current surged, slamming her against the arch. Her mask cracked, water seeping in. Panic clawed at her, but she kicked upward, the ruins blurring as she fought for the surface. She broke through, gasping, the Unvesha a distant speck. The sea had spared her, but it felt personal, as if the city itself had pushed her away. Back on board, her team was furious. "You're reckless," Vikram snapped. Priya didn't argue. She'd seen the figure, felt its gaze. Dvarka wasn't just ruins. It was alive with memory, guarding secrets it wasn't ready to share. The controversy deepened. Radiocarbon dating of wood fragments from the site suggested an age of 7,000 to 9,000 years, far older than India's known civilizations. Yet skeptics dismissed the samples as contaminated, arguing the structures were younger or natural. Priya's findings were published, but the academic world resisted. A city this ancient would upend history, suggesting urban life began millennia earlier than thought. It would mean the Mahabharata wasn't myth but memory, its tales rooted in a forgotten truth. Priya's obsession grew. She studied the carvings, comparing them to ancient scripts. Nothing matched, but their strangeness nagged at her. Some resembled symbols from Pacific cultures, hinting at a lost connection. She stumbled across theories of Mu, a mythical continent said to have sunk in the Pacific, its people scattering across Asia. Could Dvarka be a remnant of such a world? The idea was wild, but the ruins were wilder. They didn't fit the world she knew. The dives continued, each one a gamble. The site was treacherous, its stones sharp and unstable. In 2003, a diver was injured when a slab shifted, pinning his leg. Locals whispered of a curse, of Krishna's spirit protecting his city. Priya didn't believe in curses, but she felt the site's weight. Every dive was a trespass, every discovery a challenge to the past. She began to dream of the arch, its carved figure speaking in a language she couldn't grasp. "Leave us," it seemed to say. She woke sweating, the words echoing. One night, studying sonar maps, Priya noticed something: Newa circular structure, buried deeper than the rest. It could be a temple, a plaza, or something stranger. She planned a final dive, ignoring her team's protests. The sea was calm that day, unnaturally so. At 35 meters, she found it. A ring of stones, their surfaces etched with the same spirals. In the center, a pit yawned, too deep for her light to pierce. Her gauge beeped, her air running low. She should have left, but the pit called her. She swam closer, her light trembling. Something glinted below a metallic sheen, impossible for stone. Her hand brushed the pit's edge, and the water vibrated, a low hum that shook her bones. The glint vanished, and the current roared, dragging her back. She fought it, her vision blurring, the ruins spinning. Her team pulled her up just as her air ran out, her body limp. On the Unvesha, she coughed up seawater, her mind reeling. The hum lingered, a warning or a promise. Priya never dove again. The experience broke something in her, but it also hardened her resolve. She published her findings, calling the site Dvarka, a city of the gods. Critics mocked her, but others listened. Divers and scholars visited the site, their reports adding to the mystery. Sonar revealed more structures, stretching miles along the coast. Artifacts surfaced: pottery, beads, tools dated to an era when humanity was supposedly nomadic. The evidence was mounting, but the world wasn't ready. Dvarka remains a riddle. Is it Krishna's city, a Stone Age metropolis, or a trick of the sea? The ruins don't care for labels. They stand silent, their carvings fading under the waves. Priya, now retired, lives by the Gujarat coast, her walls covered in sketches of the arch and its figure. She believes Dvarka is a key, not just to India's past but to humanity's. If Mu existed, if lost worlds once thrived, Dvarka might be their echo. The sea keeps its secrets, but it can't hide forever. New technologies, drones, submersibles probe deeper, mapping what divers can't reach. Each discovery fuels the question: how many other Dvarkas lie out there, waiting? Priya dreams of the pit, its glint a beacon. She knows the city isn't done with her. It waits, as it has for millennia, for someone to hear its story. Cleopatra's Palace, a queen's hidden legacy. The Mediterranean lapped against the hull of the Nefertiti, a research vessel anchored in Alexandria's harbor, its waters deceptively serene under a blood-orange sunset. Dr. Amira Khalil, a marine archaeologist with a penchant for the impossible, stood at the deck's edge, her eyes tracing the horizon where Egypt's ancient capital met the sea. It was 1998, and Frank Gaudio's team, which Amira had joined, was on the cusp of rewriting history. Beneath these waves, sonar had detected anomaly stone structures, too precise for nature, buried in silt. The rumors whispered of Cleopatra's lost palace, the heart of a queen's empire, drowned by time and tide. "Ready for the dive?" asked Karim, the team's dive master, his voice cutting through the hum of equipment. Amira nodded, her fingers tightening around her flashlight. The harbor was a graveyard of history, its depths hiding relics of Greece, Rome, and Egypt. But Cleopatra's palace? That was a legend even skeptics couldn't resist. The sonar images showed columns, walls, and what might be statues, all submerged under 10 meters of murky water. If true, this was no ordinary find. It was a window into the life of a woman who shaped empires. Amira slipped into the water, the cold biting through her wetsuit. The descent was slow, the harbor's silt clouding her vision like a living fog. At 8 meters, the seafloor emerged a chaotic sprawl of stone and shadow. Her light caught a glint, a marble column, half buried, its surface carved with lotus flowers. She swam closer, her pulse quickening. The column wasn't alone. Nearby, a massive slab loomed, etched with hieroglyphs worn but legible. Amira's breath hitched. This wasn't a shipwreck or a forgotten dock. This was architecture, royal and deliberate. The team spread out, their lights piercing the gloom. Kareem signaled to a cluster of stone's foundations, squared and aligned, suggesting a courtyard. Beyond it, a broken statue lay, its face eerily intact. A woman, her eyes serene, crowned with a crescent moon. Isis, the goddess Cleopatra worshipped. Amira's mind raced. The antiquities of Egypt described Cleopatra's palace as a marvel. Its halls adorned with gold and alabaster, its terraces open to the sea. These ruins were humbler, cloaked in coral, but their grandeur lingered. If this was her palace, it was where Cleopatra loved Antony, defied Rome, and met her end. The current shifted, a subtle warning. Alexandria's harbor was treacherous, its seabed littered with jagged relics and unstable silt. Amira knew the risks collapsing stones, sudden undertows, but the ruins pulled her deeper. She followed a narrow path between two walls, their surfaces pocked with shells but unnaturally smooth. Her light caught something ahead. A sphinx, its lion body intact, its face eroded to a blank stare. She froze, the water growing heavier, as if the sphinx watched her. The current surged, nudging her backward. She steadied herself, but the feeling lingered. The palace didn't welcome intruders. Back on the Nefertiti, the team was abuzz. Gaudio, calm but intense, pored over sketches of the Sphinx and hieroglyphs. "This is Ptolemaic," he said, tracing a carving. "Cleopatra's era." Amira nodded, but her thoughts were elsewhere. The Sphinx's blank face haunted her, its silence louder than the sea. The team catalogued their finds. Granite columns, bronze coins stamped with Cleopatra's profile, and pottery shards dated to the 1st century BCE. Each piece screamed royalty, yet the world hesitated. A palace underwater? It sounded like myth. The discovery sparked debate. Historians argued the site was a port, not a palace, its structures misidentified. Geologists pointed to Alexandria's history of earthquakes. Devastating quakes in the 4th century CE likely sank the city's coast. Others suggested gradual subsidence, the land sinking as the Nile's delta shifted. Amira didn't care for the cause yet. She wanted the why. Why had Cleopatra's home, a symbol of power, vanished beneath the waves? Was it nature's wrath or something more? Amira's dives grew bolder. The harbor was a maze, its ruins layered like a shattered puzzle. One morning, she ventured to a new sector, where sonar hinted at a temple. The water was darker here, the silt thicker. At 12 meters, she found it. A platform flanked by columns, one bearing an inscription to Isis. In the center, a stone altar stood, its surface stained with what looked like ancient offerings. Amira's light trembled. This was no ordinary temple. It was sacred, a place where Cleopatra might have prayed. The current roared, sudden and fierce. Her fin caught on a jagged stone, tearing free with a jolt. Her oxygen gauge beeped low, too low. She should have ascended, but the altar held her. Its stains weren't random. They formed a pattern, faint but deliberate, like a map. Her light flickered, and for a moment, the altar seemed to glow, its edges pulsing with a light not her own. Panic surged. She kicked upward, the columns blurring, the current fighting her every move. Her mask fogged, her chest tight. She broke the surface gasping, the Nefertiti a faint outline through the haze. Kareem hauled her aboard, his face pale. "You were down too long," he snapped. Amira couldn't speak. Her mind locked on the altar's glow. She sketched it later. The pattern burned into her memory. Gaudio studied it, his brow furrowed. "Ritual markings," he said. But for what? Amira didn't know. but she felt a warning, a secret the palace guarded fiercely. The world took notice. The media dubbed the site Cleopatra's Pompeii, a treasure trove frozen in time. Artifacts poured in, gold jewelry, marble busts, even a papyrus fragment mentioning the queen. Yet skeptics persisted. Some claimed the ruins were a later settlement, others a natural collapse. Amira ignored them. The hieroglyphs, the coins, the Isis statue, they all pointed to Cleopatra. Radiocarbon dating confirmed the 1st century BCE, aligning with her reign. This was her palace, where she plotted, loved, and died. Amira's obsession deepened. She studied the altar's pattern, comparing it to Egyptian rituals. It resembled nothing known, its lines too precise, almost mathematical. She stumbled across fringe theories' claims of Cleopatra as a high priestess, wielding knowledge beyond her time. The idea was absurd, but the altar's glow nagged at her. Had Cleopatra hidden something here, something worth sinking a palace to protect? The dives grew perilous. The harbor's silt hid danger's sharp stones, collapsing walls. In 1999, a diver was trapped when a column shifted, his leg crushed. The team escaped, but the incident shook them. Locals spoke of a curse, of Cleopatra's spirit guarding her home. Amira scoffed, but the altar's glow haunted her dreams. She saw the queen, her eyes like the sphinx's, whispering words she couldn't catch. "Stay away," they seemed to say. She woke trembling, the sea's hum in her ears. One final dive changed everything. The team had mapped a new area where sonar showed a chamber. Amira insisted on leading, despite Karim's protests. The sea was calm, unnaturally so. At 15 meters, she found it. A sealed stone door, its surface carved with the same pattern as the altar. Her heart raced. This wasn't a temple or a courtyard. It was a vault. She brushed the door, and the water vibrated, a low hum that shook her core. Her light caught a crack, something glinted inside. Metallic, impossible. The hum grew louder, the current surging. Her gauge screamed, her air nearly gone. She reached for the crack, but the door seemed to shift, its carvings writhing. Terror gripped her. She kicked upward, the chamber spinning, the hum chasing her. Her team pulled her up, her vision fading. On the Nefertiti, she collapsed, coughing seawater. The glint burned into her mind. The vault wasn't empty. It held something: knowledge, power, or worse. Amira never dove again. The experience broke her, but it fueled her resolve. She published her findings, calling the site Cleopatra's Palace, a lost world of Egypt's last queen. Critics debated, but the evidence was undeniable. The coins, the statues, the hieroglyphs. The vault remained unopened, its door too heavy for their tools. Gaudio's team continued, uncovering more amphorae, mosaics, a second sphinx. Each find deepened the mystery. What had Cleopatra hidden? Why had the palace sunk? The site remains a beacon. Divers brave its dangers, drawn by the queen's shadow. Earthquakes or subsidence may explain the sinking, but the vault's hum suggests more. Amira, now teaching in Cairo, keeps the pattern sketch. Its lines a puzzle she can't solve. She believes the palace is a key not just to Cleopatra, but to secrets older than Egypt. If Atlantis or other lost worlds existed, this could be their echo. The Mediterranean guards its truths, but technology advances. Submersibles probe deeper, mapping the palace's full extent. Each discovery asks, what else lies beneath Alexandria's waves? Amira dreams of the vault, its glint a call. The queen's legacy endures, daring the brave to unlock her final secret. Elit Yam, the village under the waves. While Cleopatra's sunken palace in Alexandria guards the secrets of a queen's final days, off Israel's coast. The submerged village of Etlit Yam holds whispers of a civilization lost to the dawn of time. The Mediterranean was a restless giant, its waves crashing against the rocky shores of Etlit, Israel, under a sky heavy with dusk. Aboard the weathered fishing boat Shalom, repurposed for exploration, Yael Levin stood alone, her hands gripping the rusted railing. A marine biologist turned amateur archaeologist, Yael had no formal training, only an obsession with the sea's hidden stories. It was 1985, and Etlit Yama Neolithic village, submerged 10 meters below, had become her fixation. Discovered by divers a year earlier, its stone houses, graves, and enigmatic structures challenged everything known about early humans. Tonight, Yael wasn't just chasing history. She was chasing a feelinga pull from the deep that wouldn't let her go. "Sonar's ready?" shouted Amos, a grizzled diver who joined her out of curiosity. Yael nodded, her eyes on the water. The sonar had mapped Etlit Yam's ruins, but a new signal intrigued her. A cluster of shapes, circular and precise, unlike the village's rectangular homes. Was it a mistake or something more? Yael's gut told her it was the latter. Etlit Yam was 7,000 to 8,000 years old, from a time when humans were supposedly nomadic. A circle suggested purpose, ritual, astronomy, or secrets buried by the sea. The dive was a gamble. The Mediterranean was moody, its currents unpredictable, and the seabed was a maze of jagged stones. Yael strapped on her gear, her breath uneven. Amos warned her about the risks, collapsing ruins, sudden undertows, but Yael's mind was already underwater. She needed to know, who were these people and why did the sea claim them? Slipping into the water, Yael felt the cold seize her. The descent was a plunge into darkness, the surface's glow fading fast. At 9 meters, the seafloor appeared, a ghostly landscape of stone and silt. Her flashlight caught a low wall, its blocks fitted tightly, as if built yesterday. Nearby, a sunken hearth lay, its stones blackened by ancient fires. Etlit Yam wasn't a myth. It was Rayala village frozen in the Neolithic, its people long gone. Yael's heart thudded. This was no ordinary place. It was a time capsule, defying the sea's embrace. Amos pointed to the circular structure, a ring of megaliths rising from the sand. Yael swam closer, her light trembling. The stones were massive, some standing, others fallen, their surfaces scarred but deliberate. In the center, a carved basin gaped, its edges smoothed by hands long dead. Yael's breath caught. This wasn't a house or a grave. It was secrete, a circle for the stars, perhaps, or the gods. The Archaeological Digest described similar structures on land, aligned with solstices but underwater. It was impossible, yet here it was. The current shifted, tugging at her fins. Yael steadied herself, her light sweeping the circle. She spotted a slab, half buried, its surface etched with symbol spirals, lines, a crescent moon. Not scratches, but a language alien and precise. Her pulse raced. These weren't random. They told a story, one the sea had silenced. She reached for the slab, but the water grew heavy, the current stronger. Her oxygen gauge beeped a warning. She ignored it, her fingers brushing the stone. The symbols seemed to pulse, a faint glow under her light. The sea hummed, a low vibration that rattled her bones. Panic surged. Yael kicked backward, the megaliths looming like sentinels. Her light flickered, and for a moment, the basin seemed to move, its shadows twisting. She swam upward, the current fighting her, the hum chasing her. Breaking the surface, she gasped, the Shalom a faint outline in the dusk. Amos pulled her aboard, his face tight. "You stayed too long," he growled. Yael couldn't speak, her mind locked on the slab's glow. Alit Yam wasn't just a village. It was alive, guarding something ancient and forbidden. Back on the boat, Yael sketched the symbols, her hands shaking. Amos watched, skeptical. Erosion, he muttered. But Yael shook her head. The circle was too perfect, the symbols too deliberate. She'd read about Alit Yam's discoveries. Stone houses, a well with filtered water, graves with offerings. This was no primitive settlement. People were builders, thinkers, maybe stargazers. The circle could be an observatory, tracking the sun's path 8,000 years ago. But the symbols? They were something else, a code, a warning, a prayer. Word of Yael's dive spread, drawing attention. The Israel Antiquities Authority sent experts, but their reports were guarded. Some called the circle a natural formation, others a later structure swept underwater. Yael scoffed. Carbon dating pegged the site at 7,0008,000 years old, predating most villages. The well, with its stone-lined walls, hinted at advanced technology. The graves held beads and shells, signs of ritual. Alit Yam was a marvel, drowned by a catastrophe no one could explain. Yael's obsession deepened. She studied the symbols, comparing them to ancient scripts. Nothing matched, but their strangeness gnawed at her. They resembled carvings from distant cultures, Mesopotamia, the Pacific, hinting at connections no historian dared propose. She stumbled across tales of lost continents, like Atlantis or Mu, their people scattered by floods. Could Alit Yam be a remnant, a fragment of a forgotten world? The idea was wild, but the village was wilder. It didn't belong in the Neolithic. The dives grew dangerous. The seabed was unstable, its stones shifting under the sea's weight. In 1986, a diver was nearly crushed when a wall collapsed, his screams muffled by the water. The team escaped, but the incident chilled them. Locals spoke of a curse, of spirits protecting the village. Yael laughed it off, but the slab's glow haunted her. She dreamed of the circle, its megaliths lit by a moonless sky, figures chanting in a tongue she couldn't grasp. "Leave us," they whispered. She woke, her heart pounding, the hum lingering. One night, poring over sonar maps, Yael spotted a new Animalia rectangular structure, deeper than the rest. It wasn't on earlier scans. She planned a final dive, ignoring Amos's warnings. The sea was still, its surface like glass. At 12 meters, she found it. A chamber, its walls intact, its entrance sealed by a massive stone. Her light caught the same symbols, etched deeper, more urgent. This was no house. It was a vault built to hide something. Her fingers traced the stone, and the water trembled, a hum stronger than before. A crack in the slab revealed a glint metallic, impossible for the Neolithic. The hum grew deafening, the current a roar. Her gauge screamed, her air nearly gone. She reached for the crack, but the stone seemed to shift, its symbols writhing like living things. Terror seized her. She swam upward, the chamber blurring, the hum a pulse in her chest. Her team hauled her up, her vision fading. On the Shalom, she collapsed, coughing seawater. The glint burned into her soul. The vault held something, knowledge, power, or a truth too vast to face. Yael never dove again. She shared her findings, calling it Alit Yam a Neolithic enigma, a village of visionaries. Scholars debated, but the evidence was clear. The well, the graves, the circle. The vault remained sealed, its stone immovable. Divers returned, finding more flint tools, fish bones, a second well. Each discovery deepened the mystery. Who were Alit Yam's people? Why did the sea take them? The site remains a puzzle. Geologists point to a sea level rise, triggered by melting glaciers around 6,000 BCE, drowning coastal lands. Others suggest quakes, common in the region. Yarel cared less about the how than the who. Why build so near the shore? Why the circle, the vault, the symbols? The Mediterranean Archaeology Review proposed that Lit Yam was a trade hub, its people seafarers. But the symbols suggested Maurya cosmology, a faith, a secret lost to the deep. At Lit Yam endures, its stones silent under the waves. Yael, now living quietly in Haifa, keeps the symbols sketch, their lines a riddle she can't solve. She believes the village is a key not just to the Neolithic, but to humanity's hidden past. If lost worlds existed, At Lit Yam could be their echo. The Mediterranean hides its truths, but technology presses forward. Drones map the ruins, revealing structures stretching farther than thought. Each find asks, how many other villages lie submerged? Waiting? Yael dreams of the vault, its glint a beacon. The sea is patient, but its secrets are not eternal. At Lit Yam stands, a sentinel of a lost age, daring someone to unlock its truth. Lion City, China's Atlantis preserved. As At Lit Yam's sunken ruins murmur tales of a Neolithic era claimed by ancient floods, deep under China's Chandao Lake, Lion City endures as an eerily intact testament to a bygone age. Intentionally submerged by a modern dam, its timeless structures defy decay, standing resolute against the passage of centuries. The mist hung low over Chandao Lake, its glassy surface reflecting the jagged peaks of Zhejiang's hills like a shattered mirror. On a sleek dive boat, Xuanlong, Chun Wei balanced on the edge, his dive mask fogged with anticipation. A freelance photographer with a knack for capturing the uncanny, Chun had chased stories across China, but none like this. It was 2015 and Lion City Shirchong, the fabled metropolis of the Eastern Han Dynasty, lay 50 meters below, submerged since 1959 when a hydroelectric dam flooded the valley. Unlike other sunken ruins, this wasn't lost to nature's wrath. It was a sacrifice, drowned by human hands, yet preserved in eerie perfection. "Camera ready?" asked Lin, his dive partner, her voice muffled by the hum of the boat's engine. Chun nodded, adjusting his waterproof lens. Lion City wasn't just a ruin. It was a legend. Built around 200 CE, its arches, temples, and carvings rivaled the grandeur of imperial capitals. When the dam was built, the city was abandoned, its 300,000 residents relocated. Divers rediscovered it in 2001, reporting structures untouched by time-stone lions, tiled roofs, and walls that gleamed through the lake's depths. Chun wasn't here for history alone. He wanted the city's soul. The lake was a paradox. Serene above, treacherous below. Its depth hid strong currents and sudden drops, and the water was cold enough to numb the bones. Chun checked his oxygen tank, his stomach tight. Lin warned him about the risks: disorientation, equipment failure, but Chen's mind was already submerged. Why did Lion City survive so well? What secrets did its silence hold? He dove in, the water swallowing him like a living thing. The descent was a slow spiral into darkness, the lake's green tint fading to inky black. At 40 meters, the city emerged, a ghostly skyline of stone spires and curved roofs. Chen's flashlight caught a stone lion, its eyes fierce, guarding a gate that led nowhere. The water was still, unnaturally so, as if the city commanded it. Chen's heart raced. This wasn't a ruin. It was a kingdom, frozen in time, its beauty untouched by the decades. Lin signaled to a wide street, its paving stones intact, flanked by walls carved with dragons and phoenixes. Chun swam closer, his camera clicking. The carvings were pristine, their details sharp, impossible for a city submerged for half a century. He spotted a temple, its pillars upright, its altar draped in algae but whole. The China Archaeological Review described Lion City as a marvel, its architecture blending Han elegance with local craftsmanship. Yet no one explained its preservation. The lake's low oxygen slowed decay, but this was uncanny, as if the city refused to die. The current stirred, a faint tug at Chen's fins. He ignored it, drawn to a towering arch at the street's end. Its keystone bore a symbolic circle bisected by a line, unfamiliar yet deliberate. Chen's lens focused, but the water grew colder, the current stronger. His light caught the arch's base, where a stone tablet lay, half buried. Its surface was etched with more symbols, not Chinese characters but something older, stranger. His pulse quickened. These weren't decorative. They were a message, one the lake had kept hidden. Lin tapped his shoulder, pointing to her gauge. Their air was low. Chun nodded but lingered, his camera trained on the tablet. The symbols seemed to shift under his light, their lines pulsing faintly. The water hummed a low, bone-deep vibration that made his teeth ache. His flashlight flickered, and for a moment, the arch seemed to lean toward him, its shadow stretching like a hand. Panic surged. He kicked upward, the city blurring, the hum chasing him. Lin grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the surface. He broke through gasping, the Xuanlong a faint shape in the mist. Lin yanked off her mask, furious. "You almost got us killed." Chun couldn't speak. His mind locked on the tablet's glow. He'd felt the city wasn't dead. It was watching. Back on the boat, he uploaded his photos, the symbols stark against the stone. Lin stared, her anger fading. "What are those?" she whispered. Chun shook his head. They weren't Han, nor anything in the archaeological record. They were alien, a code from a time before. News of Chen's photos spread, igniting debate. The Zhejiang Institute of Archaeology sent divers, but their reports were cautious. Some called the symbols erosion marks, others later additions. Chen scoffed. The tablet was as old as the city, its carvings too precise for chance. He shared his images online, sparking frenzy. Blogs compared Lion City to Atlantis, a sunken utopia preserved by fate. Others whispered of curses, of spirits guarding the lake. Chun didn't believe in ghosts, but the hum lingered in his dreams. He returned to Chendao, driven by the tablet's mystery. The dives grew riskier, the lake's depths disorienting. At 50 meters, visibility was near zero, and the currents were relentless. One dive, Chun ventured deeper, following sonar hints of a new structure. The water was black, his light a feeble pinprick. At 55 meters, he found it. A pavilion, its roof intact, its walls carved with the same symbols. In the center, a stone plinth stood, its surface smooth except for a single deep groove. Chen's camera flashed, but the water vibrated, the hum louder now. His gauge screamed air critical. He reached for the plinth, and the groove glowed, a faint blue light that wasn't his. The current roared, slamming him against the pavilion. His mask cracked, water seeping in. Terror gripped him. He swam upward, the plinth's glow searing his vision, the hum a pulse in his chest. Lin's voice crackled through his calm, frantic. "Chun, ascend." He fought the current, the pavilion fading, his lungs burning. His team hauled him up, his body limp. On the Xuanlong, he coughed up lake water, the glow etched into his mind. The pavilion wasn't a temple. It was a vault, hiding something the city didn't want found. Chen's photos went viral, but the pavilion eluded later dives. The lake seemed to shift, its depths concealing what divers sought. Experts analyzed the symbols, finding no match in Han records. Some linked them to pre-dynastic cultures, others to myths of lost civilizations. Chun stumbled across tales of Mu, a Pacific continent said to have sunk, its knowledge scattered. Could Lion City hold a fragment of that legacy? The idea was mad, but the symbols were matter. They didn't belong in 200 CE. The lake grew hostile. In 2016, a diver vanished, his gear found tangled in a collapsed wall. Locals spoke of a curse, of Lion City's spirits punishing intruders. Chun dismissed it, but the hum haunted him. He dreamed of the plinth, its glow a beacon, figures in ancient robes circling it under a starless sky. "Stay away," they whispered. He woke, his hands trembling, the lake's chill in his bones. One final dive changed everything. Sonar detected a new animalia chamber beneath the pavilion. Chun led the team, ignoring Lin's protests. The lake was calm, its surface a mirror. At 60 meters, they found it. A sealed stone door, its surface carved with the circle and line symbol, larger, more intricate. Chen's light trembled. This was no vault. It was a tomb or a shrine. He brushed the door, and the hum returned, shaking the water. A crack revealed a glint metallic impossible for the Han era. His gauge screamed, his air gone. The door seemed to pulse, its symbols writhing. Terror seized him. He swam upward, the chamber spinning, the hum a roar. His team pulled him up, his vision fading. On the Xuanlong, Chun collapsed. The glint burned into his soul. He never dove again. The experience broke him, but it sharpened his purpose. He published his photos, calling Lion City China's Atlantis, a city of secrets. Critics debated, but the evidence was undeniable. The carvings, the symbols, the preservation. The chamber remained sealed, its door immovable. Divers returned, finding more jade statues, bronze bells, tiled mosaics. Each deepened the mystery. What had Lion City hidden? Why was it drowned? The lake guards its truths. Divers brave its depths, drawn by the city's allure. The dam's flood may explain the sinking, but the symbols suggest more. Chun, now living in Hangzhou, keeps the plinth's photo, its glow a puzzle he can't solve. He believes Lion City is a key not just to the Han, but to a forgotten past. If Atlantis or Mu existed, this could be their echo. Technology probes deeper, mapping the city's expanse. Each find asks, how many other Lion Cities lie hidden, waiting? Chun dreams of the chamber, its glint a call. The lake is eternal, but its secrets are not. Lion City stands, a sentinel of a lost age, daring someone to unlock its truth. The ocean's depths guard their mysteries fiercely, concealing castles and cities that challenge all we know. From Dvarka's divine ruins to Cleopatra's drowned palace, each site hints at worlds erased by time. Explorers risk everything to uncover their secrets, yet countless enigmas remain. As technology pierces the abyss, new discoveries loom on the horizon. The sea, vast and unyielding, dares us to keep searching. How many more lost realms lie buried in its silent embrace? If unexplained stories give you chills, don't forget to follow Ancient Relics Keeper, where time and mystery intertwine, and every ending is just the beginning of another unanswered question.